Okay, please find and read example 3A, and we will work on a schedule of cost of goods manufactured and an income statement. The schedule of cost of goods manufactured tracks the flow of inventory and inventory costs through inventory, through raw materials and work in process, and on to finished goods. The income statement reports how much of that finished goods was sold in cost of goods sold, and then goes on to calculate net income. So that's what we'll do. Our schedule of cost of goods manufactured first starts with direct materials, because that's where our flow of costs starts. We start with how much was in beginning inventory. At the beginning of the period, in this case the month, how much inventory was on hand. And in this case, our beginning inventory is $22,000. We add to that the amount that we purchased. So how much raw material was purchased during the period? Our data tells us that during the period we purchased $76,000 worth of material. So the total raw material that was available is the sum of these two. So we started the period with $22,000. We added $76,000 of material. We've got $98,000 of material available for use. Now we know from our given data, we know that $33,000 of it was not used. So if we have 98 available, 33 was not used, then we know the raw materials used in production must be the difference. So $65,000 worth of material must have been used in production. That's the first of our three manufacturing costs: direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. And actually I should call this direct, not raw. Because once it's been used, it's not raw anymore. So we have a direct materials used in production. We also have our direct labor cost. And our direct labor cost is given at $42,000. And then our third manufacturing cost is manufacturing overhead. And that is given to us in our given data at $77,000. So the total of the three costs that are added to production during the period we call total manufacturing costs. And that's the sum of these three: direct material, direct labor, and overhead are all added. So we added $184,000 of cost to production in this period. Now, that's not all the cost that was in process. We also had the cost that started the month of June in work in process. So some of the work that we had done in May we had not finished, and now it's June. We're taking that work and we're completing it. So if you want to consider all the costs we had during production, we also have to add our beginning work in process. And we get that over here from our beginning work in process, $15,000. That gives us the total work in process. At any point during the month of June, we had 15 to start with, and we added 184 to it. So we had a total of $199,000 worth of work in process at any point during the month of June. And just like we did with raw material up here, we're going to subtract the ending balance of work in process of 23. We had 199 in process, 23 of it is still unfinished. So that means we must have finished the difference. We must have finished $176,000 worth of work. And we call that cost of goods manufactured. All right, so that's our cost of goods manufactured, and that's the first part of our requirement. The second part of our requirement is to prepare an income statement for the month of June. So we're going to put that below here. We're going to start with the first line item on the income statement, which is sales, and that's given at $280,000. Our first category of costs is cost of goods sold, so we have to calculate that. We don't know what cost of goods sold is, but we have to calculate it. So we can start with, just like we started with beginning balance, added the additions and subtracted the ending balance. For our other inventory categories, we can do the same thing with cost of goods sold. We do this with our finished goods. The finished goods are the one that we sell. So we're going to start with our beginning finished goods inventory. We started the period with $52,000 worth of stuff that was done and available to be sold. We're going to add the cost of goods manufactured. That's the goods that we created during the period that are available to be sold. And that gives us the cost of goods available for sale. 52 and 176. That gives us 228 of goods that are available to be sold. Our ending finished goods inventory, of the 228 that was available to be sold, 43 is still here unsold. I'll be consistent, take the minus out. So that means of the 228 that was available and the 43 that's unsold, subtract the 43 from the 228, and we must have sold 185,000. If we subtract that from our sales, we get our gross margin or gross profit. Of $95,000. From that, we're going to subtract our period costs, our selling and administrative expenses. So first we're going to include our selling expenses, and our selling expenses are $20,000, and then we'll include our administrative expenses of $35,000. So our total selling and administrative expenses are $55,000. And so we get our net operating income, subtract our 55 from our 95, and our net operating income is $40,000.